Girls will be girls in Sugarcane, and a cyborg makes for a strange darling. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Offscreen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom. Groovy.
Hello and welcome back to Offscreen. Right, loads of movies, as always, to talk about today. But, let's start with the pleasantries, Van. How's your week been? Any gossip? Been anywhere nice?
Oh, mate, I tell you, I went to a screening last night. I went to the first press show last night, because obviously we record this on Thursday. So last night, I went to the Charlotte Street Hotel. I went to the screening room, and I took my mate Will with me. And we sat and we watched the first UK screening of The Apprentice, the Donald Trump movie.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
So we've got about a month before it's out. So we're not going to review it for like a month. But, obviously there are reviews out in the world. It has screened at festivals and things like Cannes, Venice, things like that. I can tell you it's really something. It's actually brilliant. It's really something. We're going to have a lot of fun when this is out.
I was going to say, that's all you're allowed to say as well, isn't it? So unfortunately, I can't even...
I'm not even embargoed on it. That's the fun part. I just out of decorum, I'm not going to say too much about it, but you are going to like it.
Wow. Okay. Well, we got to wait, what do you say, 3-4 weeks for that?
I think it's the 20th. It's the 18th of October, I think it's out in the UK.
Okay, well, we will look forward to that one. We've got a hell of a show today. So we're going to look at Girls Will Be Girls, Strange Darling, Sugarcane. But let's start with something that caught my eye from today's script, actually. Cyborg. So this is a documentary. And I'll hand over to you now, because it really does sound quite fascinating.
Well, it sounds it, doesn't it? I can genuinely say it sounds fascinating. I'm afraid it's not. To put this in context, when we started getting like press releases and marketing stuff, like emails, things like that, for this film coming out, Cyborg, a documentary, I thought, this seems really familiar, because it's about this guy. His name is Neil Harbisson, and I forget where he's from. He's Dutch or German or something. And he is officially recognised as the world's first cyborg. And I will explain. I saw the picture of the guy in the press release. Thought, I've seen that. Why is that out? And then realised, no, it's not actually that I've seen this film in advance. It was that I had watched so many other documentaries about robotics and cyborgs and things like that he obviously has popped up a fair few times in a fair few documentaries. So now he's got his own, which once and for all proves the old statement that not everything needs a bloody documentary. So... put this in context. It's way less exciting. The whole cyborg thing is way less exciting than you're hoping it is. Just FYI. So, Neil Harbisson was born colourblind. Okay? And throughout the course of his life, discovered a technique of basically implanting a sensor into his brain that hangs over his head. Do you know those fish that have the lights that hang over their heads? Like that.
I was just about to say, it looks like one of those pencil lights you might get on a bedside table that do reading at night time, yeah? Yeah.
They're like the bookmark lamps that hang over your book. It's exactly like that, only it hangs over his head and it's a sensor. And the idea is that he goes to an art gallery, for instance, and he can see the painting, but obviously he can't see the colour. And the sensor, using, I think it's effectively synesthesia, I think it's I don't know how you say it out loud. I can write it down, but I think it's synesthesia. Which basically allows him to effectively smell colour. That's how it works.
Wow.
And the way it relays this information to him is through musical tones. So he hears musical tones that then allow him to identify colour. And by having gone through this process and implanting this into his brain, this is what had him, certified as the world's first recognised cyborg. So I've got a clip for you. This is from Cyborg, a documentary. This is Neil Harbisson. This is just a sizzle reel, but you'll hear Neil Harbisson in this.
So I was really interested in the possibility of creating a sensory organ for the sense of time.
And in a sense, you want to play God.
I feel I'm collaborating with God.
There's also internet connection that allows me to perceive the colors from space and also to receive colors from other parts of the world.
Sounds fabulous, but why on earth would you want that?
We actually promised to each other that if one day it would be possible, we would exchange each other's eye.
We are witnessing the renaissance of our species. It's not science fiction, it's already possible. This is happening.
I know you said at the start of that to limit expectation, and I get that. But at the same time, this is quite exciting because if something can be developed that can help somebody smell colour, hear colour, see colour, however it may work out, that excites me because it makes me think, well, is there a part of the brain they can tap into to suddenly make you speak Japanese?
Actually, theoretically, that actually is possible. Anyway, sorry, I've been watching a lot of Fringe lately. Sorry, I've been rewatching Fringe. I think I'm about midway through season 4 of it now, and like pseudoscience and fringe science is all up on my brain right now. So maybe not the best of times for me to have watched this documentary. As you say, it's an inherently interesting idea, and I can't dispute that. It's a very interesting idea, and making a documentary out of this, fantastic, great idea. I'm down for it because I think, as you just aptly pointed out, what else are the possibilities? However, this film is not really concerned with that. This film is more concerned with Neil Harbisson. And it's written and directed by Kerry Boone as well. Kerry Bourne. It's worth pointing out that straight off the jump, they really don't do much to depict Neil Harbisson in much of a likeable light, we shall say. Kind of just comes on as a droning weirdo, to be honest. And when I say droning, I mean, I ran the numbers on this. I actually went and checked. I watched this on a link at home, right? Which means that at any given point, I can simply tap the remote and it will tell me, how long I've watched and how long is remaining, okay? And the reason I thought to check that is because Neil Harbisson explains the synesthetical properties of colour to you on no fewer than 3 occasions in the first 28 minutes of this film. Now imagine receiving the same science lesson 3 times in less than half an hour from someone that you don't find particularly endearing anyway. I mean, I didn't really have an opinion on the man before this documentary, and now it's like, okay, you're not someone I would want to spend a great deal of time with. Because the film is preoccupied entirely with Harbisson and his augmentation, and weirdly his relationship as well. Like, weirdly his personal life seems to get a bit of a look in. There's not the material there to sustain your interest for 97 minutes. Now, as a 40-minute documentary on BBC or Channel 4 or something like that, this could have been great. There's material there for that. If you chop this in half, you've got a great one-off documentary for TV. I think as a 97-minute film, it's a bit of an ask for the amount of material on offer. It's not especially, expertly delivered. It's not wonderfully staged or anything like that. It's not inventively captured. It really is just a bog-standard, basic bitch doc. Follow the guy around, listen to him whine. 97 minutes. I mean, it's worth noting, you can see on my notes here that I never got around to adding a star rating on here. So if I were going to do it, it's a 2 out of 5, maybe 2 stars. But that's really more in recognition of the science nerdy stuff that's in there that I did manage to pull out through, the wheat that I did manage to pull out from the chaff. You know what I mean? And that ratio is very askew. So I would say, I will find out what the other documentaries are that he appears in, and I would recommend those over this, because I think the explanation of Harbisson's augmentation, the technology being used and what it can do, I think has been told in a shorter, more concise, more interesting way in at least 2 or 3 other documentaries.
But wait until Elon Musk hears about this and have us driving cars with our minds.
Well, he's already got his brain chips on the market, hasn't he? I mean, what kind of crazy-ass person would entrust Elon Musk with putting technology that his company, that he would put his name to, that his company designed, put his tech in your body? I would feel bad getting in a Cybertruck, let alone putting a Cybertruck in me. That's just nuts.
We're quite painful as well, to say the least.
Teslas explode every 20 minutes.
No, I don't think they do. I think they've got on top of that now. But
they just drive into people. That's what they do. Tesla's the automatic driving drives into people. That's what it does. Sorry, I knew he was killing people somehow. I just didn't know how.
Well, I mean, this does fascinate me, and I totally get what you're saying, the fact that there's not enough in there to make the full, 96 minutes documentary, but, 25 minutes, enough info. Yeah.
I didn't get to send you the screening link for this in advance. Obviously, you know the links we have at the start of every week, so it's left you to just any that you want to watch. As you know, you ask me and you get the link. If I guarantee you, if I had sent you this link and just told you to watch it, I think you'd have turned it off after half an hour. If I'm really honest.
Sounds like it. From what you said, sounds like it. I agree. I think it's the concept that excites me, the same as you, more than actually how they've done it. But if you do want to make your own mind up, you can, because it's on digital from today. See what you did there? Yeah, see what I did without even knowing it. If you want to make your own Cyborg mind up about this, you can. It's on digital from today. Just look out for Cyborg, a documentary. That's what it says on the tin, literally. Right, still to come. Strange Darling, Girls Will Be Girls, and we're going to look at Sugarcane next, which is on Netflix from today. We'll see what Van thought next. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. Let's dive straight into our next film today. Well, it's another documentary actually, but with a very, very different tone. So this one's called Sugarcane, and I'll hand over to you, Van. So let's talk about the synopsis.
Right, this is going to fascinate and haunt you in equal measure, this one. So, obviously, documentary, so all of this is real. It is directed by, is it Julian Brave Noisecat, I believe his name is, who also appears on camera in the film. And it is about the Indigenous people, members of the First Nation in Canada. And at the top of the movie, we are told, and I did not know this, that the Canadian government would round up the children of the Indigenous people and put them in and force them into segregated schools. And these segregated schools have become the source of some controversy in recent years, because it has come to light that for decades they were literally feeding children into incinerators. And the only thing that anyone knew in the outside world was these children were going missing. It has now emerged that, children were being shoved into the fire, literally. And this is the documentary in which Julian Brave Noisecat both directs and appears in it, basically investigating this as the report starts to come out and as the community starts to react to these revelations of just what has been done to their people. Have a listen.
Being sorry for something is just the first step. You have to take action.
We see the impacts in our community every single day.
We need to continue to hold each other up.
Julian, I ask you to open your heart. Our people are going to stand up.
Your story is someone who was abandoned, but also who abandoned.
You do know what happened with me, right?
I want to know the whole story.
So what's the time frame of this? Like, is this still happening, or is this something that has happened and stopped and been solved?
We do get told at the end of the movie that so many of these schools were shut down, and there was a percentage of them left, and in the US as well. So not just Canada, but in the US as well. Now, obviously, you're gripped by the concept of this. Naturally enough, it's one of those stories like, oh, I've got to see that. That sounds absolutely horrifying. Like, I have to know the story there. And yes, I was very much on that train. The documentary, however, itself left me feeling rather cold. It's moving when it gets there. It's moving and it's powerful and it's affecting. But my God, does it work to get you there? Like, it is really laboured. It is laboured to the point of, at times, feeling quite directionless. Like, I mean, I'm literally going through my notes here. You get a solid sting, right, at the beginning in which they lay out what this is about. And you then get, like, a good, solid 20 to 25 minutes after that really just feels like meandering. Like, it's a documentary, so you can't really question, the logistics of it, but it is just people stood around chatting. It's, oh, hey, I'll go and visit my auntie. Hey, I'll go and visit my mom. And they really don't bring the subject up. You're like, why have you left this in? Like, okay, you got an aunt. We all got an aunt, buddy. I feel the need to include her in my work.
Are they padding then, do you think?
The thing is, right, the film is about 107 minutes long, hour 47, 107 minutes long. Right. It is 40 minutes into this before you really get to them actually explaining what has befallen, what has gone on here. And that literally extends to being about an hour into the film before there's any archival footage included, for instance. Which I was like, okay, because usually that's phase one of a documentary is, okay, what footage can we get? And that's not been done here. I found it a little icky at times how, let's just say voraciously, Julian Brave Noise Cat takes to venting his family therapy in public, we'll say. Like, I found that really uncomfortable and awkward, and it didn't feel in step with the piece at all. Beyond that, I mean, it's also the fact that in terms of setting up, right, when I say laboured, I have to underline, italicize, and bold the word laboured here. In terms of how laboured it is, I mean, in terms of setting up, this obviously, horrible atrocity that has taken place, or atrocities, it's not a single one. All of these atrocities have taken place. It is set up with all of the suspense and plotting of, I mean, do you remember that particularly crap storyline in Doctor Who where all the planets were going missing? And it really wasn't a storyline. They just kept mentioning it every couple episodes, like a planet was missing. It's kind of like that. Where someone just every now and again just casually, hey, remember when all those kids went missing? And then they just carry on talking about the weather. You know what I mean? It's like, what are we doing here? You do meet some interesting characters in there. I actually found it quite fascinating how some of the older members of the community use 23andMe, when you check your Ancestry.com, things like that, where you find your genetic heritage and start looking into their genetic heritage. And so many of them discover, for instance, they are only half native, and the other half of them is like Scottish or Irish or something from way back when. That I thought was quite a fascinating moment. I'd actually watch an entire documentary about that, to be honest, because I would find that quite fascinating. Imagine like being a member of a community like that and discovering that actually you're not as pure blood as you thought you were. Like, that is an interesting doc to me. There are sequences like that. There's a whole thing as well where they come with a mixture of what you and I would describe as a Native American accent, a Canadian accent, and either a Scottish or Irish accent, depending on the person. And it's a fusion of all of them. Like, I found that really fascinating as well. And I was intrigued to learn more about the community, to be really honest, which, again, the documentary doesn't really do much. It's just people stood around talking. You don't really get a flashing out of the place. And for a documentary as urgent as this, as important as this, because obviously it's an important story, people need to know about stuff like this, I think that it really feels a bit like a vanity project. And that's something I really don't want to be able to say about a documentary with this particular subject matter. It's child death, for God's sake. Like, why are you grandstanding and glamorizing making your dad cry? Like, what's that about? Anyway, it didn't work on me. I wasn't a huge fan. It's like, when it got there, here and there, it did move me, and it did have moments where it was quite punchy, quite powerful, but getting to those moments was a bit of a bloody slog, to be honest.
Interestingly, though, Sugarcane and Cyborg, both documentaries, both the same issue here, that actually they're padding and they're not getting to the point. Is there an awards sort of thing that means that it's got to be a certain length and they've decided to pad it out so they can hit the notes on that? I don't know.
You wonder. I mean, put it this way. I could imagine Sugarcane might get mentioned for, like, best documentary next year. Like, maybe. Just entirely because of the subject matter. It'll never win, but I could imagine it getting a nomination in the best documentary category because that subject matter is quite powerful. Cyborg.
Does it need to be a certain length for that, though?
No, I don't think you do.
Oh, right.
I think there are rules for the feature categories of the Oscars. I think generally it's something over 70 minutes or something like that. Been a while since I checked, actually. But there is, I think it's over an hour or something like that to qualify as a film.
Right, well, if you want to watch Sugarcane, you can, because it's also out in cinemas from today. Right, still to come. Girls Will Be Girls, but we'll see what Van thought to Strange Darling in just a second. Stay where you are.
And now it's time for a segment we like to call Off-Screen Pays the Bills. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Van. So, what's going on?
Ain't nothing going on with the rent. You know how it is. And so a shout out to Mochi Health for sponsoring this week's episode. If you're on the lookout for a natural, all-in-one approach to weight loss, Mochi's got you covered. You'll get access to legit doctors, nutrition advice, and they even deliver your meds straight to your door. They've got science-backed options like GLP-1s, think Ozempic, plus more affordable generic versions too. And don't worry if your insurance doesn't pitch in, because Mochi keeps things affordable. What's cool is that dietitians work with your medication to create a nutrition plan that actually fits into your life. So it's all about making simple, sustainable changes that help you hit your goals, with support every step of the way. So check them out at joinmochi.com, that's joinmochi.com, and use the code OFFSCREEN for $40 off your first month. Thanks again to Mochi Health, and now, back to the show.
Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. We've got Girls Will Be Girls to talk about in a little bit, but let's dive straight in to a movie I've been told to strap the F in for. It is Strange Darling, and Van, it's over to you.
Right, so Strange Darling, which is the second movie from J.T. Molnar, and I got to say, as sophomore efforts go, this is a Pulp Fiction level leap. Okay, just. Because we all forget that Pulp Fiction was a guy's second movie, okay? Like, imagine your first movie that you make is Reservoir Dogs, and then you make Pulp Fiction. That's kind of what's happened here. The same kind of things happened. I am a very big fan of this film. So, because you and I were talking about the plot synopsis off air, and this is effectively the story of a one-night stand that goes awry and sees a young woman being chased to her death. And is literally chased for her life by what appears to be a violent psychopath played by Kyle Gallner. Kyle Gallner would be known to most people, I think, for the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. He also played the Flash in Smallville, when they couldn't legally call him the Flash. He was Impulse or something. He's one of those faces you'll know him from around. And our lead is played by Willa Fitzgerald, who starred in the first season and a single episode of the second season of Reacher. And I'm a very big fan of Reacher, hence why I have to acknowledge that. I also am now madly in love with Willa Fitzgerald. I will just admit that straight off the bat. She won me over so hard with this movie. Right. Here's the kick. It's non-linear. Right? It is, as billed, it is called Strange Darling, a thriller in 6 chapters. Right? Movie begins... Chapter 3. And you watch something's happened. You get a little sting, and then you get Chapter 3. Then you get Chapter 1. Then you get Chapter 6. Then you get Chapter 2. Then you get Chapter 5. And it leaps all over the place. And this sounds like nonsense, but very cleverly, in doing it the way they have, it allows them to to inject a little extra suspense into that story. So have a listen. Remember, one night stand, chased to her death. That's the basic concept here. Have a listen.
Do you have any idea the kind of risks a woman like me takes every time she agrees to have a little fun?
Never thought about it that way.
Of course you haven't. You're not a woman.
Love hurts.
You seem like a nice guy.
Love scars.
But the real issue is safety.
Love wounds.
That's life or death.
And
So I'm gonna have to ask you a question. Are you a serial killer?
What did you just say?
I already love this so much. I'll be honest with you, I've not remembered a single thing you've said for the 3 minutes that we've been chatting about this movie, because I've been watching the trailer on mute, and it's drawn me in without hearing any sound. And do you know what it reminds me of? Do you remember a movie from the 80s, I think, about a big black truck, that a guy was driving around and just following someone? I can't remember what it was called.
I remember that one. I don't know what the hell it was called. No, it wasn't Hitcher, was it? No, that's actually the one about the hitchhiker. No. However, since you've been watching it on mute, I will tell you the things straight off the bat that you're going to love here. Right, did you notice that it looks incredible?
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Right, do you want to know something really interesting about it looking incredible?
You're going to tell me it was filmed on an iPhone 13?
No, it was filmed, and they do tell you this at the start of the film. It's on the credits. Filmed entirely in 35mm film. They make a big song and dance about it. However, the director of photography, the cinematographer on this, and it's his first feature gig, is none other than actor Giovanni Ribisi, a.k.a. Phoebe's brother Frank from Friends.
Wow.
Remember Frank? The little brother from Gone in 60 Seconds? Arlen Wade from Saving Private Ryan? Yeah, Giovanni Ribisi. And he's a damn good photographer. He's got a hell of an eye. Like, it looks amazing, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's a heavy use of bisexual lighting, obviously, but, right. I love this. I'm a very big fan of it. I think the performances are great. Gallner has always delivered, to be very fair. I'm actually always amazed that he's never been more of a thing than he was. I would have thought in the late 2000s he would have actually found a vehicle that propelled him up. Just never happened for the guy. And it's a darn shame because he's great here. And don't be thinking that this is just him playing playing the Elmer Fudd to Willa Fitzgerald's Bugs Bunny, because it's more than that. He gets a lot to do. And so does she. Now, she is the standout here. What a find she is. I am such a big fan of her in this film. She's literally the lady on the poster. And in much the I have to give you the same sort of caveat I did with Carl Gallner, which is it's not as simple as you think it is. And using that non-linear trick, which it bounces around the place. It's not exactly like Memento, but in the same way that Memento used its chronology to amp up the tension and keep you guessing, this one really goes there and gets to do it harder because, like I say, unlike Memento where it's simply going backwards, this one is jumping around. And every single time it jumps, it completely recontextualizes what you just saw. So you'll watch a scene and you'll be like, oh, okay, so this is happening in this scene. And then you watch the next scene that's set either before or after, and you discover something that entirely changes what you just watched.
I love that concept.
Yes, exactly that. So it put it this way, it would be like someone walking in a room and finding me yelling at you. And then, mistakenly thinking that I was abusing you or something, only to then walk into the next room and see us 10 minutes earlier where you annoyed me, where you had offended me personally, something like that. It completely recontextualizes the idea. I think this is absolutely brilliant. If it didn't have the non-linear trick, it would still, if it just played straight, A to B to C, it would still be a 4-star film. With its non-linear trick in there, and the way that just enchantingly plays with you, it goes to a 5-star very, very quickly. I think this is easily one of the best movies I've seen in months. Like, this is, it's in my longer list for best of the year so far. Because my list is like 20 or 30 long at this. I've not filed it down to the 10 yet. But this is most definitely on that longer list. I think this is absolutely superb. It looks, it's kind of positioned as if it's a horror film, and it's really more of a straight thriller. But again, I have to be really careful about what I say about it. Treat this film like it's Cabin in the Woods. Okay, did you ever see Cabin in the Woods? Mm-hmm. The whole thing with Cabin in the Woods is you have to know nothing. Know as little as possible, and then watch Cabin in the Woods, right? And you'll be blown away. Right. Learn as little as you humanly can about Strange Darling, and then put it on, and you are in for 95. I think it's 95, 97. So it's 97 actually. 97 minutes that are going to absolutely stick with you. This is one of those that you run straight down the pub and start telling every one of the guys, like, you got to watch this movie. It's great, absolutely fantastic. We have got the screener for this, by the way. I will share it with you.
Oh, please do. I want to watch this, like, now.
Yeah,
literally.
You get yourself on Vimeo this weekend and meet the Strange Darling. Honestly, you're going to be talking this up for ages.
Oh, I'm really excited about that. Okay, well, if you want to watch it, you can. You don't get a screener link, but you can go and watch it in the cinema from today. And I'm excited about this. So I promise you, this time next week, we're going to be chatting about it again, and I'm going to be telling you how I enjoyed it, I'm sure. Okay, one final movie to talk about. Girls Will Be Girls. We'll see what Van thought to it. It's a drama, it's a romance, and we'll find out next. Hello and welcome back to Offscreen for one last ride. We are going to dive in to look at Girls Will Be Girls. As I mentioned a moment ago, this is quietening down a little bit from our last movie. This is a drama and a romance. So over to you, Van. What do you think of it?
I mean, I'll get to what I think of it. In terms of it being a drama and a romance, I don't know. It feels. I think I would describe it more as a teenage girl's coming of age drama. Is really how I would describe it. So it deals with Mira, who is a 16-year-old girl in India in a relatively sort of nice private school. She has a very sheltered life. You know, obviously for cultural reasons, she has quite a sheltered life and has quite a domineering mother. She only really has the mum, and the mum is quite a domineering presence in her life, trying to keep her on the straight and narrow as far as she sees it, but obviously the daughter sees it another way. She befriends a boy in her school with whom she starts to embark on really her first romance. And it is that coming of age through that, but also how this starts to generate conflict between her and her mother, and also starts to stir something in the mother as well as regards said young man. Have a listen.
It's different here. A lot of rules. What if we made a rule that we be honest with each other? No bullshit. Hi, Auntie.
I won't allow anything more than a friendship. This can't affect her academics.
I wouldn't want that.
Keep the top.
Mendel's first law of inheritance
is the law of dominance.
Correct.
He's a nice boy. He's very mature for his age.
What I would ask you then is, what would you say the point of this movie is? I mean, is its main aim to highlight cultural differences, or is it just to tell a really good story?
Just to tell a really good story. I was very moved by it, actually. I think, first of all, it's the actual feature debut. It's the feature directorial debut of writer-director Shruti Talati. She'd made a bunch of shorts. I think she made something like 7 or 8 shorts before this, but this is the first actual feature effort. And as far as features go, feature debuts go, it's a pretty impressive one, actually. I mean, you've got a really impressive lead straight off the jump in Preeti Panigrahi, I think her name is Panigrahi. Preeti Panigrahi in the lead, who is fantastic, actually. Really sells, because it's a very difficult character to nail down in terms of the adolescent, it's so unfair quality of it. You know what I mean? Like, you this could be quite bratty, but is played with a very subtle, an almost demure-like bit of nuance. And I think that was quite the performance. There's a pretty solid Manic Pixie Dream Boy bit of casting there. It's Kisan Binoy Kiron. And you can tell I did not rehearse these pronunciations before, by the way, as you can obviously tell. But I was really struck by how personal it felt. Despite the fact it's a work of fiction, it almost feels like there is an autobiographical quality to it that obviously, you know, Talati is drawing on her own experiences here. Like, it feels like something she herself might have experienced in some form or other at school, or maybe certain aspects of it. And you do feel that because there is this tinge of something personal to the filmmaking. And when you combine, which is great filmmaking as well, but there is also then that tinge of the personal to it. And when you factor that in with the terrific performances from Panigrahi, from Kiran, I actually thought this was really something. Maybe a bit overlong. I think it clocks in, it's about 2 minutes shy of 2 hours. So a smidge overlong. Like, I'd maybe shave 10 or 15 minutes off it. But I can't really complain. I would put this alongside something like Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which, you know, that got nominated for Best Screenplay last year or something like that. But I think if you were someone who was a fan of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, you owe it to yourself to check this one out. Go and check out Girls Will Be Girls, which, as a title, sounds so much more sensationalist than this actual movie is. You know, it's quite a nice, well-behaved movie. Girls Will Be Girls sounds like the Cyndi Lauper biopic. You know what I mean? It's just... You know, Girls Will Be Girls is the title you put on the poster for a movie that stars Rebel Wilson and Emma Stone. You know what I mean? A comedy with a white background. That's what you put Girls Will Be Girls on. But yeah, I thought this was really something. It threatens to go a little bit salacious and sleazy at a point, but it does restrain itself. Like I say, there is that touch, that feel of a personal touch to everything. And that's what makes me genuinely wonder. I'm going to look up some interviews with Talati, and I'm sure it must come up in some of them. But there's got to be a personal aspect to this, because it really does feel like it's a palpable feeling that you can't escape all the way through. So it's a winner in my book. I think I would give it a 4. I'd give it a 4-star rating, I think. Not for everyone's taste, admittedly, but I think for anyone who enjoyed, as I say, Are You There, Guys? Me, Margaret, or Edge of 17 with Haley Steinfeld. That's another one I really enjoyed. I think this works alongside those.
Well, Girls Will Be Girls is out in cinemas from today. I don't need to ask you this because I already know the answer, but film of the week...
Strange Darling, come on.
Yeah, of course.
Easy, that one. Easy.
I've got a feeling you and I are going to be waxing lyrical about that on my radio show tomorrow when you come on to talk about
I think so,
movies.
Most definitely. Yeah.
All right, well, before we finish today's show, let's talk about what we've got coming up next week then, and which ones are exciting you slightly.
I mean, there's a fair few next week that are actually exciting me. There's one in particular that I know I've been excited about for a long time. So, first of all, we've got The Outrun, which I think is Saoirse Ronan's new one. And it's always an occasion when Saoirse's back.
I love Saoirse.
She's the unsung dame of British thesps, isn't she?
I agree.
It's weird to me that Saoirse Ronan's not a household name, because she's fantastic in everything. Has been
I've
since
loved
she
her
was
since
literally
Lovely
a
Bones.
child. Oh, Atonement for me when she was the little girl. But,
yeah, that too. Yeah.
We've also got Never Let Go. I forget what that one is, actually, if I'm really honest. The animated film Dragon Keeper is next week, which I've got a link for you to enjoy with Albert over the weekend, hopefully. Enjoy an animated dragon movie. I mean, what kid doesn't love an animated dragon movie? Because this is funny for me, because Agatha All Along started this week on Disney Plus and returned to my life on screen for the first time in 2 years. One Miss Aubrey Plaza, whom I've had a thing for a long time. And now I get to see her in 2 films next week. So, the first film I'm going to see her in, so she's in Agatha as well at the moment on telly, but next week we're going to first see her in a comedy called My Old Ass, in which it's literally her younger self gets to talk to her older self and take advice from her, and Aubrey Plaza is the older one, I think, is how it goes. It's meant to be like a sort of dramedy type thing.
We'd love to all be able to do that.
Wouldn't we all? I will reveal the second film in a moment, but I'm going to have to say first, we will also be talking about, God help us, Hellboy the Crooked Man is next week. Now, obviously, I'm a big Hellboy fan. Have been for decades, actually. 20 years since the first Hellboy movie. I think I was into the Mignola comics in the late 90s, I think. And my Mignola comics, they were really good. And now we've got The Crooked Man, which just looks like the crappiest, naffest, direct-to-DVD, petrol station bargain bin reboot you've ever seen. And so much so that no one knows any of the cast that are in it. It stars Jack Kesey, who had a small role in Deadpool 2. As Black Tom, I think. He's Black Tom, and he's Hellboy now. We went from David Harbour to Black Tom from Deadpool 2. And it is The Crooked Man. God help us. We will see how that turns out last week. It can't be worse than the last one. It can't be. We reviewed the last one together, if you remember.
Yeah, we did.
The Neil Marshall one that they didn't show to the press until the last possible minute on a day when most of the press weren't going to be in London. And then it also happened to be the same day that it dropped in cinemas. And you're like, good God, what are you people playing at? But yeah. Anyway, last, but certainly by no means least, is our second Aubrey Plaza offering of next week. The movie that I'm reasonably sure is going to mark the end of Francis Ford Coppola's distinguished career in cinema. Francis Ford Coppola, as you may remember, brought us The Godfather, brought us Apocalypse Now, brought us other cinematic heavyweights such as Robin Williams in Jack, one of the weirdest movies ever concocted. And he has absolutely gone to bat for this passion project he's been trying to make for decades, right? So much so that his beloved wine company has now been sold to pay for this. The Coppola Vineyards are no more. He has sold them to pay for Megalopolis, a 2.5-hour science fiction epic that stars Adam Driver, Aubrey Plaza, Natalie Emmanuel, Giancarlo Esposito, and honestly, there's about 36 names on the cast list on the poster.
Wow.
This is deranged. It has had reviews that have varied from the worst thing I've ever seen to meh, all right. And at one point involves, and this is genuinely true, an actual live interactive bit in which a member of staff from wherever you're watching the film has to come into the screen and talk to the screen and interact with it. Like John Hammond does in Jurassic Park. You know in Jurassic Park when he's given the tour and he has to go poke the thing. They have to do that. Apparently at one point Adam Driver gives a press conference and someone has to come in and yell questions at him.
What, like the popcorn girl?
Like that. The popcorn girl has to come in and yell questions at Adam Driver. That's the thing.
My God. I almost want to go to the cinema to watch it just for that.
Put it this way. There's only one press show of this. And I can't help but wonder if the reason there's only one press show is because they just can't be arsed to have to keep finding members of staff to run in and yell at Adam Driver. So,
oh, no.
I will be in an IMAX screen at 9:30 on a Monday morning, strapped in to watch this. Because, like I say, I've been looking forward to it for a long time. I'm a big Coppola guy. I mean, I'll even go to bat for one from the heart. Like, I'll even back One from the Heart, to be honest, which is a deranged movie. But, like I say, I'm not expecting the best, even though this is kind of bye-bye Frankie. You know, but yeah, we'll find out next week how good how good or bad, mostly bad, Megalopolis really is.
Well, we will find out indeed. That is, of course, all we have time for this time round. We will return next week. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.